Hi guys, it's Joshua here again from the Planets Nu team. I wanted to make a video today to talk about joining a public game and all the options that are available there and how to get into a game. And this is really geared towards new players. So the idea is we really want to give people an idea of all these things. And if you're a new player coming to the site, sometimes it can be a little confusing. There's so many different options and games to play. I wanted to explain some of that in this video. So here you can see that I'm signed into my account. I've got a couple of games running, a few single player games and some larger games that I'm in here. And most of you have probably already gone ahead and hit the new game button from time to time, but you've also been looking at the menu and going, what are all these things up here? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit new game, which is kind of like getting you started. And as we know, there is the possibility of creating single player games to play against the computer. You can create private multiplayer games. I did a video on that already on how to create a game to just play with your friends, which is a great way to get started. And what I'm really focused on today here is public multiplayer games. So you're an individual player and you want to join, though, a big multiplayer game against some other players, some other human players. And this, quite honestly, is right up there with private multiplayer, but it is how most people play on the site and how people get into lots of different games and where there's so much fun in joining the community and becoming one of the players that are part of this large community. So the public multiplayer game, when I hit play here, all it's going to do is actually the same thing as hitting game list over here. It's going to just take me over to the game list. And on this, we have the list of multiplayer public games. And this is a little bit confusing, but it's actually fairly straightforward once you have the idea here on how it works. But essentially, each of these listed items is a public game. And there are different game formats, and they're best described by their short description, which is this little white area here. So I'm going to talk about the different types, but I'm first just going to jump into how would I actually join one. If I wanted to actually join one, I can just click on it. And that's going to take me to the game page. There's some description information about it. I can click view settings if I want to see the actual details. I can click view map if I actually want to go into the game and have a quick look. If I'm curious about it, I can do that. I can do that on any public game. And then I can go back to this players tab here, which is where I can actually join the game. So some games let you choose your own race. Some games have fixed races here, and also some games have sort of team structures built into them. So that's sort of some fixed diplomacy. So really straightforward. You come in here, you click on one of these. If I wanted to join as a privateer, I could just say yes, and I would join as a privateer. I'm not going to do that because it's actually going to put me in the game. But this would actually cause me to join this game as the privateers in the slot, and it'll immediately take me back to the game to start playing my first turn. These games on the new tab are generally all in the joining state. They actually should be all in the joining state. So this means that these games are essentially ready. Most of them you can play your first turn or your first 2 or 3 turns without having to wait for anyone else to get started. But the game itself is not actually going to start until all the slots are filled. So that's an important thing. Sometimes if a game has got like quite a few slots like this, it depends on the game. But if it has quite a few open positions, and I might join as a privateers, but it might take a few days before this game actually fills up with other players. So and some games can take a little longer to fill up. Some games fill up very quickly. If you join one where there's only 1 or 2 spots left, it usually fills up within a short time, a day or two, and then the game will get started. So keep in mind that there could be a bit of a delay while you're getting started with those games. So I'm just going to go back to the game list, and I'm going to talk about the different types of games. So the first one right at the top here is a mentor versus midshipman game. And this is actually a particular game format which is designed for beginners to learn the full rule set. And I'm going to talk about rule sets as we go through here. So mentor versus midshipman games are quite fun games. You can see here we've got 2 teams in the mentor versus midshipman format. And in this format, you have one team of beginner players, and it's 15 different beginner players on this thing, and against a single player who is an experienced player. And in this case, a player that has a high rank must join as the mentor, and they're basically stuck in the middle. and everyone else in this game, all the beginners, are on the outside, and they're attacking into the middle. And this is a lot of fun. Basically, in most cases, the beginners will win this game by crushing that middle player. And the middle player, their job is to be sort of explaining the game as the game goes on, and having fun together, just sort of talking about how to build up your empires and working on that. So, and putting up a good fight for the 15 players attacking them. So it can still be a very good battle. If you have a very good mentor, they're very hard to beat. So you can learn a lot and have a lot of fun knocking down a player like that. So this game, still looking for a mentor in this case to join, and we've got a bunch of midshipmen who have already joined, and we're going to start filling this one up, and then the game will start. So yeah, this is a great game format to start with if you're a beginner. Another great game format to start with as a beginner is the standard beginners. And so this format is a very straightforward planets game. And in this game, there are 8 players. We take a couple of the races out that are particularly difficult to play against as a beginner. The privateers, the crystalline, the cyborg, they're removed from this game. And the more straightforward races are left into the game. There's still a lot of fun here. The Birdman, the Fascist, really interesting races. And a lot of the heavy carrier races are still in here. So it's a really great way to get started. The other thing that is in the beginner rule set is you've got unlimited fuel. So you're not worrying about fuel logistics. You're able to just fly your ships around. You're also, there's no supplies in these games, which is just reducing the complexity. So essentially we're taking, of the 6 resource types that are used within a planets game, 2 of them are eliminated from this game, just to make the game a little bit less complicated, and gives it a good opening introduction to the game. But it feels very much like a planets game. Everything else is still included, and so the entire process is really there. The other thing that is a factor in the beginner games is that there's only a planets limit ship is the setting that we talk about it. But essentially what it means is that you decide how many ships you can build based on the number of planets that you have. Whereas in standard games, there's something called the global ship limit, and this is the 500 ship limit, which is shared across different races. And I'll talk more about that as we go forward here. So standard beginners and mentor versus midshipman are the 2 recommended places to start if you are a beginner. And these are also, you can see on a standard beginners, there's a maximum rank of lieutenant. So this is really only for beginners. Once you level up too much, you actually can't get into these games. You're a little too experienced to join them. And so you're playing against other players that are of the same level. So this is the key place to start if you're a beginner. Once you advance a little further, I'm just going to talk about some of these other options. Once you advance a little further, standard is the standard game format here at Planets Nu, and that's a little different from classic. Classic is the classic rule set exactly as it was created back in 1991 by Tim Weissman, and so a very long ago format. Standard is a slightly more evolved version of that. It has a few different advantages to balance out some of the races and to kind of smooth out some of the complexities of the game that were kind of left into the old version. So Classic is generally being played by a lot of the older players that have been playing for a really long time, and they like that rule set. They like to play under it. Standard is the most popular format on Planets Nu, and the one that is played by most players and into the championship matches. So that's if you reach a certain level, you can start to join standard games. And keep in mind, though, things get a lot harder once you go into standard. There are privateers, there are crystalline. These are extremely hard races to fight against. Web mines, robbing. It's very, very difficult. And then the cyborg are also a very powerful race. But of course, you can choose to play as these races, which can be a lot of fun. Definitely a new experience. So prepare to fight hard in these games. The other thing that is a huge factor in these games is the global ship limit. And what this means is there are 500 ship limit in the game, and that is shared by all, which means that there's a race in the early start of the game in order to try and build as many ships as you can before that ship limit is hit. And then that kind of, once you reach that stage, it becomes much more difficult for anyone to build ships because ships must effectively be destroyed in order to open up spots for new ones. So it creates a different stages to the game rather than kind of your own flow as you go forward. So stage 1 is build your fleet. Stage 2, now we go to war, and it becomes very tactical because the value of each ship drastically increases because you can't replace them as quickly or as easily. So it becomes much more tactical and diplomatic, and less about pure economy. That early stage becomes about economy, and then moving forward from there. So that's one of the greatest things about Planets, and it's what defines the standard format. So again, all you need to do is come in here, click on something, and join it. Now let's talk about one other game format, or a couple other game formats here that are fun. So as you can see in this list, what happens here is the system generates a number of game formats which get added in here. So anytime a standard beginner's game fills up, then a new one is dropped in here, and you can join anytime. So there's always one of these available to join. But then there are many other formats as well. So another one of the system-generated formats is Campaign. Campaign, I'm going to talk about those in a different video, but essentially that gives you the ability to research special ship hulls and advantages and sort of customize your races. It's a customization tool, and it also includes the Horwasp as another race. So there's a lot of, this is just sort of a more advanced or more fun version of the game, which has a lot of different features. And the Giant Melee is an exciting game format. You can jump in at any time in a Giant Melee, and everyone is welcome. It's a kind of a crazy place if you just want to jump in and get going. But in the Giant Melee, there are 30 players, or up to 30 players in those games. And so you can jump in at any time, and the game is always running. The moment the first player starts or joins, the game starts running. And if you join a little bit later, you get given additional ships and planets in order to sort of catch up to where they are already. And because there are so many players on the same size map, everyone is really jammed together. So you're immediately in a big war, and you immediately have to start fighting and doing tactics. So if you want to skip the sort of economic development portion of the game and jump right to the tactics and diplomacy, jump into a Giant Melee, you'll immediately get some excitement. You may not survive. Remember, there are 30 players joining that game, and it's really a battle of survival. 29 of them are not going to win. So it's really just about how far can you make it, how long can you survive in those games, and that's the fun part of jumping into a Giant Melee. So now, you see, though, this list is really long. There's a ton of things going on here, and you're going to see special features like stealth, which is where you can't see the rule set or you can't see the scores of the other players. Here's a teams of 2 game, and then there's some custom games that have been created by our players. Players can create public custom games with different things. In this case, we've got one that's set up a Babylon 5 format where you as the different teams are representing different elements of Babylon 5, and that's just fun stuff that players are setting up to make it a lot of fun for people looking to experience new things. There's wandering tribe scenarios where you just start with a bunch of super freighters full of colonists. You don't even have a homeworld. There's all kinds of fun stuff. In fact, it really gets interesting if you go over. So this is where you join a new game. However, if you go over to the interest section here, the tab, there's a whole pile of more games, game formats that are seeking interested people. And this is where this is sort of a staging ground. So people can put a game idea out there and see if people are interested to join. And if enough people become interested, then this game will get promoted from the interest section into the new, and so go from interest to joining. And once it goes into joining, then it will stay there and hopefully fill up. So essentially, a group of people have to say that they're interested in order for that game to move forward. So in here, there are some standard or system created games as well. So standard fleet officers, for example. So a very, very high level officers can join, can indicate that they're interested in this one. And you can even take a spot in this game if you want to secure your position. You can even before it's in joining. And then down below, we've got all those kind of custom games that people are looking to start. And sometimes they're just the same standard rule sets with, play every day, or, different types of team game formats, just tons of different stuff with different rule sets that can be experimented with here. So this is the idea. Lone Wolf is a popular one that doesn't involve any diplomacy. People like to use that. So there's lots of different formats going on here. So if you are interested in one of these games, you can just specify that you are interested by clicking I am interested on the game. And that doesn't commit you to anything. It just says, I'm interested in this. And if enough people express interest, then you will get a notification when this game moves to joining. And that'll let you have the option of joining it at that point, but it's by no means a commitment. Hopefully we do like to think that once you choose to hit that join button on a game and play that first turn on a game that you're joining, that you're going to stick with that game and that you're going to try and survive as long as you can in that game and hopefully go as far as you can. So that's the idea, and this is how you do it. So it's very simple. I know this is quite a lot of information, but if you're a beginner, just to recap, Mentor versus Midshipman or Standard Beginners, go on those two game formats and just click in here to join, and that's going to get you into your first game, and then all of this is going to start making more sense. As soon as you join, you'll get an email notification that you've joined the game, and then you'll start to receive your email notifications for each turn as that game goes forward. So I hope this video is helpful and explains some of this stuff for you, and we look forward to playing a public game with you. Thanks.